In a distant galaxy, on a planet teeming with life far beyond the reaches of human understanding, humanity had always been considered weak. Their homeworld, Earth, was but a speck in the cosmos, primitive, underdeveloped, and barely a footnote in the vast tapestry of the universe. Alien races, both ancient and powerful, regarded humanity with little more than disdain. The very idea that such a species could challenge the dominance of advanced civilizations was laughable to the galactic community. But beneath the surface of Earth, something began to stir. Humanity, shackled by its own limitations, was on the verge of an awakening, an evolution that would shake the foundations of the universe. It all began when a human space probe, launched into deep space for the sake of scientific exploration, encountered an alien relic. Buried deep in the reaches of a forgotten star system, the ancient device, a machine of unimaginable power, was discovered by the probe's sensors. The first signal of its existence reached Earth like a whisper in the wind. But this was no ordinary signal, it was a call, a beckoning, inviting those who dared to answer. Humanity, not yet understanding the significance of the discovery, sent a team of scientists to investigate. A vast space station was constructed, orbiting the distant star system, with the most brilliant minds of Earth aboard. They ventured to the alien relic, only to find themselves overwhelmed by its hidden secrets. The artifact was far more than a mere technological wonder, it was a nexus of knowledge. It contained the ancient wisdom of a race long forgotten, their technology so advanced it was beyond comprehension. The artifact was capable of transforming its user, imbuing them with the knowledge and abilities of the species who created it. But it had a price, only those with the strength to wield its power could survive the transformation. As humanity's leading minds explored the artifact, they uncovered the first key to its unlocking, a mysterious energy source that could amplify human potential, bypassing the biological limits of the human body. One by one, they tested the artifact, risking their very lives. And one by one, they underwent a transformation unlike any seen before. Their minds expanded, processing vast amounts of data at an unprecedented rate. Their bodies strengthened beyond human limitations, enhanced with the capabilities of the ancient species whose knowledge flowed through them. The first humans to undergo the transformation came back to Earth forever changed. Their once feeble forms now rippled with power, their intellects sharpened, their physical abilities enhanced to godlike levels. It was not just a single individual who experienced this transformation, it was an entire group, each of them gaining unimaginable abilities. The implications were immediate and profound. As the transformed humans returned to Earth, they became the new leaders of the planet, guiding the once fragmented nations into unity. The world was no longer divided by borders, ideology, or politics, it was united by a singular purpose, to explore the stars, and to rise as a dominant force in the galaxy. Earth's military, once outdated and underdeveloped, was now a formidable force capable of standing toe-to-toe with any alien threat. They were ready to challenge the ancient races who had once laughed at their weakness. But the alien relic had other plans. The moment humanity began to rise, a signal was sent across the stars. A warning, perhaps, or an invitation. It was a message that reached the ears of the galaxy's most powerful and ancient races. The existence of the artifact and the transformation of humanity had not gone unnoticed. The galaxy's most powerful factions took immediate notice. It wasn't just a new player on the field, it was a force that could topple the balance of power. As humanity's leaders, now capable of mind-bending feats, debated their next move, they were unaware of the impending storm. A galactic war was on the horizon, one that would test humanity's newfound strength. But this war would not be like any the universe had seen before. It would be a fight for survival, a fight that would determine whether humanity could overcome the insurmountable odds stacked against them. As the first alien ships arrived at Earth's orbit, humanity's greatest minds and warriors stood at the ready. The stage was set for a battle like no other, one that would forever change the fate of the universe. The world watched in anticipation, for humanity had finally taken its first step toward becoming something more than weaklings. The rise of humanity had begun, and it would not be easily stopped. The galaxy trembled as news of humanity's sudden ascent spread like wildfire. The most powerful alien factions, those that had once dismissed humanity as insignificant, were now on high alert. They could not ignore the rise of a species whose potential could rival their own. The first to arrive at Earth's doorstep were the Zorathians, an ancient warrior race known for their ruthlessness in battle. With their dark, imposing ships blocking out the stars, they made their intentions clear: humanity was a threat that needed to be eliminated before it could gain any more power. But humanity was no longer the weakling race it once had been. The transformations from the ancient artifact had birthed a new breed of warriors, humans with enhanced strength, speed, and intellect. The transformed leaders, now known as the Ascendants, stood ready to face the Zorathians. They had the knowledge, the power, and the unity to face any challenge, but the stakes were higher than they had ever imagined. The first battle unfolded with staggering intensity. Earth's military, now under the command of the Ascendants, had swiftly restructured into an organized force that rivaled even the most advanced galactic fleets. The Zorathians, with their battle-hardened tactics and superior weaponry, were sure that they would crush humanity in mere moments. But what they didn't anticipate was the resilience and cunning of the Ascendants, who adapted quickly to the chaos of battle. As Zorathian warships descended on Earth's orbit, the Ascendants led the charge in their own vessels, sleek, agile crafts that reflected their newfound abilities. The battle took place in the skies above Earth, and it was unlike any seen before. The Ascendants used advanced alien technology, integrating it seamlessly with their human ingenuity, to counter the Zorathian onslaught. One of the Ascendants, Captain Erin Vallis, known for her unparalleled strategic mind, commanded a flotilla of ships as she led the defense. Her ship, the Aegis, was equipped with alien weapons that defied the laws of physics. She deployed gravity-manipulating missiles, capable of turning the Zorathian warships' weapons back on them, causing their own blasts to recoil with deadly force. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Cale Duran, another Ascendant and a master of combat, led a squadron of elite soldiers in ground assaults against Zorathian infiltration forces that had landed on Earth. The Zorathians, caught off guard by humanity's ingenuity and relentless fighting spirit, quickly found themselves on the back foot. What was supposed to be a quick, one-sided victory for the Zorathians had turned into a brutal, costly conflict. Each strike from the Ascendants was devastating, as their new abilities and tactics outmatched the Zorathians in ways that no one could have predicted. But the battle was far from over. Despite their setbacks, the Zorathians had one weapon that the Ascendants had not yet encountered: the Nexus Bomb, a device capable of erasing entire planets from existence. It was their last, desperate move. As the Zorathians prepared to deploy the weapon, humanity's newest leaders faced an impossible decision. With the Zorathians threatening to obliterate Earth, the Ascendants had no choice but to take the fight to the heart of the Zorathian fleet. Captain Vallis knew that in order to win, she would need to risk everything. It was a gamble that could mean victory or annihilation. Vallis and her crew boarded an elite strike team and infiltrated the Zorathian flagship, where the Nexus Bomb was housed. It was a perilous mission, filled with traps, alien forces, and hostile environments, but humanity's new warriors proved their worth. They fought tooth and nail, dismantling the Zorathian forces with unrelenting precision, until finally, they reached the heart of the Zorathian ship. In a moment of high tension, Captain Vallis made the decision to use the alien technology they had gathered from the artifact to override the Nexus Bomb. With a single thought, she activated a series of devastating countermeasures, causing the bomb to implode on itself in a cascade of energy that destroyed the Zorathian flagship and the fleet surrounding it. The Zorathians, in disbelief at the loss of their weapon and their fleet, retreated in defeat. The Ascendants had done the impossible: they had defended their home planet and stopped an extinction-level event. Humanity had won their first battle against the galaxy's most fearsome warriors. But the victory came at a cost. Earth's cities lay in ruins, and the aftermath of the battle would take years to recover from. Yet there was a sense of hope among the people, a sense that humanity could indeed rise against the odds. With the Zorathian threat eliminated, humanity now found itself standing at the precipice of something greater. The Ascendants knew that this battle was only the beginning. The galaxy was watching, and many more challenges would come. But for the first time in history, humanity knew that it was no longer a weakling species. it had become a force to be reckoned with. The galaxy trembled as news of humanity's sudden ascent spread like wildfire. The most powerful alien factions, those that had once dismissed humanity as insignificant, were now on high alert. They could not ignore the rise of a species whose potential could rival their own. The first to arrive at Earth's doorstep were the Zorathians, an ancient warrior race known for their ruthlessness in battle. With their dark, imposing ships blocking out the stars, they made their intentions clear: humanity was a threat that needed to be eliminated before it could gain any more power. But humanity was no longer the weakling race it once had been. The transformations from the ancient artifact had birthed a new breed of warriors, humans with enhanced strength, speed, and intellect. The transformed leaders, now known as the Ascendants, stood ready to face the Zorathians. They had the knowledge, the power, and the unity to face any challenge, but the stakes were higher than they had ever imagined. The first battle unfolded with staggering intensity. Earth's military, now under the command of the Ascendants, had swiftly restructured into an organized force that rivaled even the most advanced galactic fleets. The Zorathians, with their battle-hardened tactics and superior weaponry, were sure that they would crush humanity in mere moments. But what they didn't anticipate was the resilience and cunning of the Ascendants, who adapted quickly to the chaos of battle. As Zorathian warships descended on Earth's orbit, the Ascendants led the charge in their own vessels, sleek, agile crafts that reflected their newfound abilities. The battle took place in the skies above Earth, and it was unlike any seen before. The Ascendants used advanced alien technology, integrating it seamlessly with their human ingenuity, to counter the Zorathian onslaught. One of the Ascendants, Captain Erin Vallis, known for her unparalleled strategic mind, commanded a flotilla of ships as she led the defense. Her ship, the Aegis, was equipped with alien weapons that defied the laws of physics. She deployed gravity-manipulating missiles, capable of turning the Zorathian warships' weapons back on them, causing their own blasts to recoil with deadly force. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kale Duran, another Ascendant and a master of combat, led a squadron of elite soldiers in ground assaults against Zorathian infiltration forces that had landed on Earth. The Zorathians, caught off guard by humanity's ingenuity and relentless fighting spirit, quickly found themselves on the back foot. What was supposed to be a quick, one-sided victory for the Zorathians had turned into a brutal, costly conflict. Each strike from the Ascendants was devastating, as their new abilities and tactics outmatched the Zorathians in ways that no one could have predicted. But the battle was far from over. Despite their setbacks, the Zorathians had one weapon that the Ascendants had not yet encountered: the Nexus Bomb, a device capable of erasing entire planets from existence. It was their last, desperate move. As the Zorathians prepared to deploy the weapon, humanity's newest leaders faced an impossible decision. With the Zorathians threatening to obliterate Earth, the Ascendants had no choice but to take the fight to the heart of the Zorathian fleet. Captain Vallis knew that in order to win, she would need to risk everything. It was a gamble that could mean victory or annihilation. Vallis and her crew boarded an elite strike team and infiltrated the Zorathian flagship, where the Nexus Bomb was housed. It was a perilous mission, filled with traps, alien forces, and hostile environments, but humanity's new warriors proved their worth. They fought tooth and nail, dismantling the Zorathian forces with unrelenting precision, until finally, they reached the heart of the Zorathian ship. In a moment of high tension, Captain Vallis made the decision to use the alien technology they had gathered from the artifact to override the Nexus Bomb. With a single thought, she activated a series of devastating countermeasures, causing the bomb to implode on itself in a cascade of energy that destroyed the Zorathian flagship and the fleet surrounding it. The Zorathians, in disbelief at the loss of their weapon and their fleet, retreated in defeat. The Ascendants had done the impossible: they had defended their home planet and stopped an extinction-level event. Humanity had won their first battle against the galaxy's most fearsome warriors. But the victory came at a cost. Earth's cities lay in ruins, and the aftermath of the battle would take years to recover from. Yet there was a sense of hope among the people, a sense that humanity could indeed rise against the odds. With the Zorathian threat eliminated, humanity now found itself standing at the precipice of something greater. The Ascendants knew that this battle was only the beginning. The galaxy was watching, and many more challenges would come. But for the first time in history, humanity knew that it was no longer a weakling species. It had become a force to be reckoned with. The battle with the Varkari was unlike anything humanity had faced before. While the Ascendants had already proven their prowess in defending Earth from the Zorathians, the Varkari were a different breed altogether. Their tactics were not just military, they were psychological. The Varkari had an uncanny ability to break their enemies' will to fight, and they were now setting their sights on humanity's newfound unity. The first wave of the Varkari assault began with a calculated bombardment of Earth's major cities. They targeted the most critical infrastructure, power grids, communication hubs, and military installations. Their ships, massive and looming, cast long shadows over the Earth's surface as they unleashed their devastating firepower. The human resistance, though fierce, found itself strained against the overwhelming might of the Varkari. In a desperate move, Captain Aaron Vallis and the Ascendants realized that the only way to break the Varkari's grip was to strike at the heart of their empire. The Varkari had not only brought their fleet to Earth, but they had also left behind a dangerous device, a psychological weapon that broadcast waves of despair and fear across the planet. The weapon was located on the Varkari's flagship, a colossal vessel known as the Varkath Prime, and if humanity was to stand a chance, they needed to destroy it. But there was a catch. Varkath Prime was surrounded by an armada of elite Varkari warships, and its defenses were impenetrable. The Ascendants had to think fast, for the longer they waited, the more the psychological weapon would take its toll on Earth's people. Every minute that passed saw more of humanity's resolve crumble under the weight of fear and doubt. Lieutenant Kale Duran, who had led the assault against the Zorathian forces, was chosen for a critical mission: infiltrate the Varkath Prime and disable the psychological weapon before it could break humanity's resolve completely. It was a suicide mission, but Duran and his team volunteered without hesitation. The stakes were too high. As Duran and his team made their way through the vast reaches of the Varkari fleet, they encountered resistance at every turn. Varkari soldiers, enhanced with their own brutal modifications, hunted them relentlessly. But the Ascendants were no strangers to combat. Duran's squad moved like shadows, swift, silent, and unstoppable. With each skirmish, they gained ground, but the journey to the heart of the Varkath Prime was fraught with peril. Back on Earth, the Ascendants mobilized Earth's remaining defenses. They launched a diversionary attack against the outer ring of the Varkari fleet, hoping to buy Duran's team the time they needed. The battle was fierce, but it was clear that Earth's forces were slowly being pushed back. The Varkari's psychological weapon, though still active, was having an effect. Morale among Earth's defenders was beginning to falter, and doubts crept into the hearts of many. As Duran's team infiltrated the Varkath Prime, they encountered an unexpected challenge. The ship's central core was protected by a network of psychic barriers designed to repel any form of direct attack. The Ascendants had already faced psychic enemies in their own ranks, but nothing prepared them for the sheer power of the Varkari mind shields. Each step forward was met with intense mental resistance, as the ship itself seemed to fight back against their presence. But Duran's team was undeterred. They relied on their training, their enhanced abilities, and their unwavering belief in humanity's strength. With every psychic barrier they encountered, they used their alien technology, based on the same principles of the artifact that had transformed them, to counteract the defenses. They were close now, just a few decks away from the weapon's core. Yet time was running out. As the final barrier dissolved, they entered the heart of the Varkath Prime. The room was filled with an eerie silence. At the center of the chamber stood the device, a towering, crystalline structure pulsating with dark energy. It was broadcasting waves of despair that reverberated through the entire ship, and it was only a matter of time before Earth's defenders would fall under its influence completely. Duran, now feeling the weight of the device's power pressing down on his mind, moved quickly. With a single command, he activated the deactivation sequence they had stolen from the Varkari's own systems. The weapon began to power down, its once menacing hum fading into nothingness. The psychic barriers around the core flickered and collapsed. But just as they thought victory was within reach, a figure emerged from the shadows. High Commander Zorak, the very leader who had declared humanity's doom, stood before them. His cold, calculating eyes bore into Duran as he raised his weapon, a blade forged from the darkest of Varkari alloys. "You should have never come here," Zorak spat, his voice laced with fury. "This is your end." A final showdown erupted within the heart of the Varkath Prime. Zorak was a formidable opponent, his strength augmented by the ancient power of the Varkari. But Duran, fueled by the belief in humanity's right to exist and rise in the galaxy, fought with a ferocity and determination that was unmatched. The battle was brutal. Zorak's blade clashed against Duran's energy shields, sparks flying as the two warriors pushed their bodies to the limits. It was only after a brutal exchange that Duran, in a final, desperate move, managed to disarm Zorak and destroy his weapon. With Zorak defeated, Duran and his team set the final charge to destroy the weapon completely. The Varkath Prime began to disintegrate, and the Varkari fleet, now leaderless, began to retreat. Back on Earth, the psychological weapon's influence dissipated. Humanity's resolve, once fractured, began to rebuild itself. The Ascendants had done it, they had struck at the heart of the Varkari Empire, and in doing so, they had shattered the enemy's most potent weapon. But the war was far from over. The galaxy was watching, and humanity had made an enemy of one of the most dangerous factions in existence. The rise of humanity had only just begun. The Varkari's retreat marked a temporary victory for humanity, but the damage was far from undone. The Varkath Prime was in ruins, and with it, the Varkari's most fearsome weapon had been destroyed. Yet, as the Ascendants stood victorious over the battlefield, one truth remained clear: the galaxy had not forgotten their rise. The ancient, powerful races that ruled the galaxy with an iron fist were growing increasingly uneasy with humanity's ascent. The Varkari, though temporarily defeated, were far from broken. Their high command had already begun regrouping, plotting revenge. The loss had been a blow to their pride, but the Varkari were nothing if not relentless. Meanwhile, the Intergalactic Council, a coalition of the oldest and most influential races in the galaxy, convened in secret. For centuries, this council had maintained a delicate balance of power, keeping the galaxy's major civilizations in check. But the rise of humanity, fueled by the unknown power of the ancient artifact, threatened to tip that balance in ways the council couldn't allow. Representatives from the Varkari, the Cormani, a species known for their vast telekinetic abilities, and the Galarian Union, a collective of high-tech, militarized species, met in the darkened halls of their secret council chamber, their discussions filled with an undercurrent of fear and anger. "The humans are not what they seem," a Cormani elder spoke, his mind reaching out with psychic waves. "Their potential is untapped, and their resolve is unlike any we've ever encountered. We must act before they grow too powerful." "The Varkari's failure must not be repeated," the leader of the Galarian Union added. "They are far too unpredictable, and their ambitions have already cost us dearly. We will crush them before they have a chance to strike again." Together, the coalition hatched a plan, not just to defeat humanity, but to suppress it completely. They would send emissaries to Earth, offering terms of peace, but behind the facade, they would manipulate humanity into submitting to their will. If that failed, they would resort to more extreme measures. Meanwhile, on Earth, the Ascendants were growing restless. Though the war against the Varkari was over, the quiet after the storm felt like a prelude to something far darker. The galaxy's reaction to humanity's rise was already becoming evident. A fleet of diplomatic emissaries, including representatives from the Intergalactic Council, had arrived in Earth's orbit. The time for negotiation had come, but the Ascendants knew better than to take these meetings at face value. Captain Valis, now a seasoned leader of humanity, convened a council with her fellow Ascendants. They needed a plan, a strategy not just to defend Earth, but to assert humanity's place in the galaxy. "It's clear that the galaxy won't simply accept our presence," Valis said, her gaze unwavering. "They will try to manipulate us, control us, and if we refuse, they will crush us. We cannot allow that to happen. Our rise is not just about Earth's survival, it's about asserting our independence, our right to exist as equals among the stars." Her words resonated with the Ascendants, all of whom had been transformed by the alien artifact. They were no longer the humans of old. They were something greater, something beyond the limits of their biology, and it was time to show the galaxy that humanity would not bow down. The diplomatic mission from the Council arrived in Earth's capital city, a gleaming symbol of humanity's newfound unity and power. The emissaries were a mix of alien species, their towering forms and strange, otherworldly features a stark contrast to the human delegation awaiting them. The message they brought was clear: Earth had been invited to join the Intergalactic Council as an equal member, but only if humanity was willing to submit to the Council's rule. The Ascendants, along with Earth's leaders, gathered to hear the terms of the peaceful offer. They stood before the emissaries, watching as the alien representatives presented their case. There was talk of technology sharing, military alliances, and trade. But it was all veiled in a subtle undertone of control. The Council made it clear that humanity's rise would be allowed to continue, but only within the boundaries set by the Council's rules. Valis, standing as humanity's spokesperson, took a deep breath before speaking. "We appreciate your offer," she said, her voice strong and unwavering. "But we have a different vision for humanity's future. We are not here to be ruled or controlled. We are here to take our rightful place in the galaxy as equals, not subordinates." The room fell silent, the air thick with tension. The alien emissaries exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. They had expected resistance, but not quite so bold a declaration. The very idea that a single species, one that had barely entered the galactic stage, would dare to challenge the Council's authority was unthinkable. "You refuse to comply with the terms set before you," one of the emissaries, a tall, skeletal figure from the Galarian Union, said slowly. "Do you understand what this means, human? You will be deemed a threat to galactic peace. The Council will not allow insubordination." Captain Valis stood tall, her eyes locking with those of the emissary. "Then we will fight for our place in this galaxy. We will no longer be the weaklings you once mocked. Humanity will not kneel. Not now. Not ever." The Council emissaries, realizing that diplomacy had failed, signaled to their fleet hidden just outside Earth's orbit. The tension escalated. The stage was set for a new war, a war not just for Earth's survival, but for humanity's freedom and place in the cosmos. As the emissaries left the room, the Ascendants prepared for the worst. Earth would not bend to the will of the Council. They would fight, and in doing so, they would prove to the galaxy that humanity was no longer weak. The rise of humanity had sparked a conflict that would reshape the balance of the universe. The threat of galactic war was now imminent. The Intergalactic Council, once seen as the keepers of the galaxy's fragile balance, had made it clear: humanity's refusal to submit would be met with overwhelming force. As Earth's leaders and Ascendants scrambled to fortify their defenses, the true scale of the threat became painfully clear. Humanity had gained strength, but it was a force that could not yet match the full power of the galaxy's oldest civilizations. Back on Earth, the Ascendants met in the newly constructed Command Nexus, a sprawling complex built to coordinate humanity's defense against the impending invasion. The atmosphere was tense, filled with the hum of advanced technology and the murmur of strategic discussions. Captain Valis, now recognized as Earth's supreme military commander, stood at the head of the Council table, her mind focused on the task ahead. "We've learned the hard way that diplomacy with these races is a game of manipulation," Valis said, her voice steady but filled with underlying resolve. "We are not their equals in terms of numbers, but we are not without our advantages. Our adaptability, our unity, and the unknown strength of the artifact will be our greatest weapons." Admiral Hannah Kor, one of the Ascendants who had proven instrumental in humanity's rise, spoke next. "The Varkari may have retreated, but they will not forget their defeat. Their hunger for revenge is not something we can underestimate. We can't count on them sitting idle while we fend off the Council. We need allies. We need to leverage everything we've learned." The plan to form alliances was set in motion. The Ascendants knew that humanity could not fight the galactic forces alone. There were factions across the galaxy, those with grudges against the Council, those who had suffered under the dominance of the older races, that might be willing to join humanity's cause. The first race humanity reached out to was the Shalari, a technologically advanced species who had long been oppressed by the Cormani, their telekinetic overlords. The Shalari had kept their distance from galactic politics, but they had lost everything to the Cormani's cruel reign. In exchange for humanity's support in overthrowing the Cormani, they agreed to form an alliance. The Shalari brought with them advanced weaponry, ships that could outmaneuver even the most formidable fleets, and their unique mastery over energy-based warfare. But the Shalari were not alone in their desire for vengeance. The Ascendants also reached out to the Zarin, a race of warriors who had fought for centuries against the oppressive rule of the Galarian Union. The Zarin, known for their unmatched combat skills and brutal tactics, were quick to agree to a pact. They saw in humanity not only a new ally, but a chance to finally break free from the Galarians' grip. However, not all factions were willing to join forces with humanity. Some, like the Zorathians, once defeated but not fully eradicated, saw humanity's rise as a threat, and their grudge against the Ascendants was not so easily forgotten. Others, like the Zelzar, an enigmatic species of master manipulators, were reluctant to risk drawing the Council's wrath. The galaxy's political landscape had become a labyrinth of shifting allegiances and broken trust. As the Ascendants forged new alliances and fortified Earth's defenses, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were playing a dangerous game. Every decision they made had consequences, and their actions could spark a chain of events that might irrevocably alter the course of galactic history. Then came the first strike. The Intergalactic Council, acting swiftly after the failure of diplomacy, launched a brutal offensive against Earth's outer colonies. These colonies, while heavily fortified, were vulnerable, isolated from Earth itself and lacking the full support of the Ascendant forces. The Council's fleet, bolstered by the Galarian Union's advanced technology and the Cormani's psychic support, moved in with terrifying speed. The human colonies, already stretched thin by the threat of invasion, fought valiantly. But the power of the Council's combined forces was overwhelming. The first wave of attacks shattered several of Earth's most vital outposts, and the messages from these colonies were filled with the grim news of destruction. Admiral Kor received the first transmission from the frontier. The Galarian fleet has hit Arcturus Station. We've lost contact with Solis and Vega outposts. The Cormani are moving in on Altair, psychic waves are overwhelming our forces. Valis clenched her fists. The situation was dire. The Ascendants had prepared for a fight, but nothing had prepared them for the sheer scope of the Council's assault. It was clear that the Council was not just trying to crush humanity, they were trying to break Earth's spirit, to show the galaxy that no species could rise without paying the price. Yet amidst the chaos, there was a glimmer of hope. The Zarin and Shalari forces, having mobilized quickly, were making significant headway in disrupting the Council's rear lines. Their combined fleets, though small in number, were making a dent in the Galarian and Cormani forces. The Ascendants realized that, despite the brutal initial strikes, they had allies who were willing to stand by them. "Keep pushing them back," Valis ordered, her voice a razor's edge of determination. "We may be outnumbered, but we are not outclassed. This is just the beginning." As humanity's forces fought back, they began to see that the true strength of the galaxy was not in its fleets, nor in its ancient alliances, but in the hearts and minds of the people who stood against the oppression of the Council. The galaxy was a vast and intimidating place, but humanity had proven one undeniable truth: they would not go quietly into the night. But the Council was not finished. As the battle for Earth's colonies raged on, the next phase of their plan was set in motion, an attack that would push humanity to the brink and reveal the true cost of their defiance. The battle for Earth had only just begun, and the Intergalactic Council, enraged by humanity's defiance, had escalated the conflict. The initial assaults on Earth's outer colonies were nothing more than a prelude to the real test. The Council's forces, now united and stronger than ever, unleashed a devastating offensive that threatened to break humanity's spirit once and for all. Captain Valis and her team of Ascendants had already proven their mettle, but the sheer scale of the Council's power was overwhelming. Earth's defenders were stretched thin across the colonies, facing attacks from multiple directions. The Varkari, seeking revenge for their previous defeat, had rejoined the fray, reinforcing the Council's ranks. The Galarian Union's fleets, massive and well-equipped, rained destruction on humanity's outer defenses, while the Cormani launched psychic offensives that left Earth's soldiers and allies shaken, vulnerable to their mental assaults. It was clear now, humanity was in its darkest hour. Back on Earth, the Ascendants were faced with an impossible decision. The few colonies that remained stood on the edge of annihilation, and the Intergalactic Council's main fleet was moving toward Earth's homeworld itself. Valis gathered the leaders of the Ascendants in the command nexus, their faces drawn with exhaustion, yet determined. "The time has come," Valis began, her voice resolute, despite the storm of anxiety swirling in the room. "We cannot afford to lose Earth. The Council intends to destroy our home, and they'll stop at nothing to ensure our extinction. But we have allies, Shalari, Zarin, even the remnants of the Zorathian fleets. It's time we turn this war around." Admiral Kor nodded, her eyes focused. "Our allies are holding the line, but we need to give them a fighting chance. The Council's next move will likely be a planetary strike against Earth. We cannot withstand a full-scale invasion." "We don't need to withstand it," Valis replied. "We need to make them feel the weight of every mistake they've made in underestimating us. We'll bring the fight to them." It was a bold plan, perhaps their only hope. The Ascendants would lead a combined force of humanity's allies directly into the heart of the Council's domain, taking the war to their very doorstep. The goal, a surprise attack on the Council's headquarters, the Citadel of Zernath, a legendary fortress that stood as the political heart of the galaxy. If they could cripple the Council's leadership and strike at its core, they might force the galaxy's rulers to the negotiating table, or, at the very least, buy Earth the time it needed to fortify its defenses. The operation would be dangerous, and the Ascendants knew that it was a one-way mission. The Council would not negotiate. It was either victory or extinction. As the combined fleet of human and allied forces set course for Zernath, the magnitude of their undertaking began to sink in. The journey was long and perilous, with the Council's forces constantly hunting them, probing their movements and striking when they least expected it. Every battle became more desperate. Ships were lost, but each loss only strengthened humanity's resolve. They would never go down without a fight. But just as the Ascendants and their allies neared Zernath, they encountered an unexpected threat, an enormous warship, far larger than anything they had encountered before. It was the flagship of the Galarian Union, Vortex of Eternity, a vessel of such power that its very name sent tremors through the galaxy. The Vortex of Eternity was a monster, a floating fortress equipped with the most advanced weaponry, shield systems, and an experimental energy weapon capable of decimating entire fleets in a single shot. And it was waiting for them, its guns trained on humanity's last hope. As the Ascendant fleet prepared to engage, Captain Valis knew they couldn't win this fight. The odds were too great, and the loss of their combined forces would spell the end of their mission. But she also knew that they had no other choice. The battle was on, and Earth's fate hung in the balance. "Prepare to engage," Valis ordered, her voice steady despite the stakes. "We're not running. We're fighting for our right to exist." The battle against the Vortex of Eternity was unlike any humanity had faced. It was a fight of attrition, with humanity's ships darting in and out of range, using every last scrap of energy and tactical ingenuity to avoid the full force of the flagship's devastating weaponry. The Galarian flagship's advanced shields seemed impenetrable, its weapons nearly unstoppable. Then, in the midst of the chaos, something extraordinary happened. The artifact, the same ancient power that had transformed the Ascendants and brought humanity to this point, began to resonate, its energy surging with unrestrained force. It was as if the artifact itself had recognized the scale of humanity's struggle and was now lending its power to the fight. A blinding light filled the battlefield, and the Ascendants' fleet found their strength renewed. Energy pulses from the artifact surged through their ships, boosting their shields and weaponry to unprecedented levels. It was as though humanity had unlocked the artifact's full potential, an energy so raw, so concentrated, that it matched the Vortex of Eternity in power. The Ascendant fleet, now emboldened, pressed forward, unleashing a barrage of energy that shattered the flagship's shields. With precise strikes and near unbelievable speed, the combined fleet of humans and their allies brought down the massive warship, piece by piece. The vortex of eternity finally exploded in a brilliant, cascading inferno, marking a pivotal moment in the war. Though the loss of life was great, the victory over the flagship sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. The Ascendants had struck a blow at the very heart of the Galarian Union's power, and for the first time, the Council saw just how much humanity was capable of. As the Ascendant fleet continued its journey toward Zernath, Valis looked out at the remnants of the battlefield. The war was far from over, but humanity had proven one undeniable truth: they would fight to the bitter end, and no force in the galaxy could take their future from them without paying a heavy price. The final battle for the galaxy was drawing near. And humanity would not back down. The vortex of eternity had been shattered, but the galaxy's heart still pulsed with tension. The Ascendants and their allies pressed on, their resolve strengthened by the monumental victory. But even as the flames of battle cooled, the Council was far from defeated. The citadel of Zernath loomed ahead, the final bastion of power, where the fate of humanity and the galaxy would be decided once and for all. The Ascendants' fleet, though battered and diminished, was determined. They had reached Zernatha's orbit, the immense fortress appearing like an ominous monolith against the stars. The time for negotiation was over. The war had escalated far beyond anything the Council had ever expected, and now the Ascendants, with their newfound strength, would take the fight to the very core of the Council's authority. "Once we breach the Citadel's defenses, there will be no going back," Captain Valis said, her voice unwavering as she addressed the assembled commanders. "We're not just attacking their stronghold, we're attacking the entire structure of galactic oppression. They won't just fight to protect Zernath, they will fight to preserve their control over the galaxy." Admiral Hannah Kor nodded. "We've come too far to turn back now. If we fall, Earth falls with us. We fight for all of humanity, for every colony that's been destroyed, for every life lost. We're not just fighting the Council, we're fighting for freedom." The Ascendants' fleet, bolstered by the forces of the Shalari, Zarin, and others who had joined the cause, began their assault on the citadel. Zernath was a fortress like no other, its defenses were legendary, its shields nearly indestructible. The sheer size of the station, coupled with its overwhelming firepower, made it seem as if humanity's assault was doomed from the start. But humanity had something the Council could not anticipate: the power of the artifact. Since the battle against the vortex of eternity, the Ascendants had unlocked its full potential. Its energies had coursed through them, transforming their ships and abilities into something unimaginable. It was this force, combined with their will to survive, that would tip the scales. As the fleet charged into Zernatha's defenses, waves of energy from the artifact rippled through the battlefield, throwing the Council's forces into disarray. The Ascendants' ships, infused with the artifact's power, pierced through the Citadel's shields, slowly but surely wearing down the station's formidable defenses. But as they drew closer to the heart of the Citadel, the Council's last line of defense, a squadron of elite Guardians, emerged. The Guardians were ancient, their psychic powers unmatched by anything humanity had encountered. They were the Council's deadliest weapons, trained to protect Zernath at all costs. As they descended on the Ascendants' fleet, the battle became a frenetic dance of energy blasts, psychic shockwaves, and devastating strikes. The Ascendants were pushed to their limits as the Guardians launched relentless attacks, but they fought back with everything they had. Valis, leading the charge, engaged the Council's leader, the High Chancellor, a towering figure whose control over the galaxy had shaped its destiny for centuries. The High Chancellor, a being of immense power, was the embodiment of the Council's ruthless order, his mind a labyrinth of psychic energy and strategy. "You think you can challenge the very foundation of the galaxy?" The High Chancellor's voice echoed in Valis's mind, the weight of his thoughts pressing down on her. "You are nothing. Weaklings from a forgotten world." Valis stood firm, her heart burning with a fire she had never known. "We are not weak. We are human. And we will never bow to you." The battle between Valis and the High Chancellor unfolded in a clash of wills, an epic struggle of psychic energy and raw determination. As their powers collided, the very fabric of space seemed to tremble, the stars flickering as if caught in the wake of their conflict. But the Ascendants were not alone in this fight. The power of the artifact surged within them, unlocking new levels of energy and strength. Valis felt it, an ancient force that had been waiting for humanity to claim it. In that moment, she realized that humanity was no longer just a species in survival mode. They were a force of nature, an unstoppable tide that had finally broken free. With a final, devastating push, Valis shattered the High Chancellor's psychic defenses. The Council's leader fell, his immense power flickering out like a dying star. As he crumpled to the ground, the shields of Zernath began to collapse, and the Citadel's vast weapons systems faltered. The Ascendants had breached the heart of the Council's power. But even as the Citadel's defenses crumbled, the galaxy's older races, those who had long profited from the Council's reign, rallied to protect their way of life. The Shalari, Zarin, and Zorathians fought alongside humanity, making sure the galaxy's leaders understood one undeniable truth: the era of the Council's tyranny was over. As the final battle raged within the heart of Zernath, humanity's victory became inevitable. The Council had been toppled. The intergalactic order was no more. The galaxy, once ruled by a few ancient races, was now a place where humanity would take its place as an equal, not a subject. Valis stood atop the Citadel's command platform, watching as the remnants of the Council's empire dissolved before her eyes. The stars had changed. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted, and humanity was now at the forefront of a new era. "We did it," Admiral Kor said quietly, her voice filled with awe. "We've won." Valis nodded, a look of quiet determination in her eyes. "We've only just begun. The galaxy is vast, and there's much to be done. But today, humanity proved one thing: we are no longer the weaklings of the past. We are warriors. And we will shape the future." As the Ascendants and their allies returned to Earth, the people of the galaxy watched with a mixture of awe and fear. Humanity had risen from the depths of obscurity to become the most powerful force in the universe. The galaxy had been forever changed, and the rise of humanity was now an undeniable fact. The dawn of a new era had begun. And for the first time, the stars belonged to those who dared to reach for them.